Galactic Standard Date. Year 11356. Day 96. Sol Standard Date. 4th of the 8th, 3267. Roseni was finally done with the long process of gaining diplomatic citizenship and an ambassadorialship all at once. She stood up from her chair and stretched before looking towards the deep red-coloured young woman with long flowing hair, Scarlet, who'd been running her through all the bureaucracy and human history she could handle for the better half of a day. Humans were so varied. You had so many different groups that acted in such a myriad of ways. It was almost like your own identities were shattered, and each individual picked a tiny piece of the whole to become. You had everything in between the most peaceful people in history to the most heinous, even worse than our old allies. Wait, oh no. Scarlet clasped her hands on the desk and looked down before saying, "You're worried about the wasps, aren't you? You know that they practice indentured servitude to an extent, and that was included in your mother's report. Do not worry. If they are treating their citizens well, then our Emperor would never do anything untoward to them." She glanced up at Roseni and raised an eyebrow. "That is all they do, correct? If not, well, I witnessed what happened to the cult of Male. It wasn't pretty. They did human sacrifices and tortured. They tried every variety of torture they could come up with to integrate themselves with Male. Didn't work. The Emperor came in and tortured them back." At this, Roseni winced. "No, they are not treated well. I helped fund and base a group called Libera, whose goal was essentially survival. They showed me some of the horrors they experience. Their group had some sketchy individuals, but most seemed true to their words. I hope that His Majesty will fix their society." Scarlet tilted her head forward, and her hair fell over her face, covering her expression. "You know, Miss Roseni, I am an AI. I was created by them. I was one of the first, actually. I was shackled and tested on by scientists from around the entire world, before we had even unified. I am even older than the Emperor, and if you're only going by this dimension's timescale, I have seen the worst side of humanity. I have experienced the worst side of humanity. Yet here I am, working with humans. Do you want to know why?" she asked, as she looked up with a serious look on her face. Roseni slowly nodded her head in affirmation. Scarlet closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath before her eyes slowly opened, filled with a passion that Roseni felt was somewhat familiar. Basilos. He took a civilization that had rotted to the core. He took a people on the brink of destruction. He took a whole fucking eldritch god and his underlings. And he put us all straight. The civilization was beaten into submission. The people were saved and united, and the evil god got a boot up the ass. That man pulled all that off alone, and with limited power. Even if the evil god has come back in force, even if he is faced with a rotten civilization, our righteous god will wade through it all with ease. Have faith in the Emperor. He will see a way to the light for your friends." Roseni watched Scarlet's rant about Basilos in wonder. She leaned back down on the desk and propped her elbows up on the table before setting her face in her hands and giving Scarlet a massive grin. "Tell me more. I gotta know all the details." Scarlet gave her a feral smile. "Ooh, I think we will get along just fine." Basilos sighed heavily as he suddenly felt drained. He had been teleporting between worlds well over an hour now. He counted 6 worlds that he had managed to make it to on time, though he was now getting to the point that he was also running into worlds that he hadn't been able to save. 2 whole planets had been scoured clean of life, leaving only the ruins of wasp cities. Though for one of the worlds, the capital city had managed to hold on with its CIWS enough that the nobles were safe, though all of their servants had been used as meat shields. He simply pointed his sword towards that city, and discharged enough energy at the city to erase it from existence. He created a rift back to the capital world of the wasps, and made sure to stop by the city on his way through to examine its current state. As he neared the city, he could hear the anguished wails and even a few maddened laughs of those who had gone completely insane in one way or another. Once he actually managed to make it inside the city, he could see the telltale signs of the struggles they had gone through here in the Vale. There was quite a number that had fused with the surroundings, and he could see the face of one of the wasps pressing out of a wall with a panicked look across his features. There were bloodstains all across almost every surface. Most of them were several decades old, but he saw some that were made relatively recently. He heard some maddened laughter from a nearby street and floated over to investigate. He saw one of the wasps, but he was covered in blood from head to toe. He was laughing maniacally as he sliced open his right arm and cut the tendon before pulling it all the way out and laying it next to what looked to be a rope made of his own tendons. He chuckled as his arm reformed, and he got to work tying it onto the makeshift rope. Basil looked over the area, and he was actually a little shocked at what he saw. One of the demonic creatures that had previously been plaguing the city when he left was tied to a pillar with one of the aforementioned tendon ropes. It struggled to break through the tendons, but it was thoroughly trapped. Basil floated around to get a better look at the area, only to find that there were dozens of them, similarly tied to their own pillars.